Hey, what's up everybody? 3D Theory here. Today is October 9th, 2024 at 8:52 a.m. and this is vlog number 60. Alright guys, as you can tell, we finished up the two halves of the Stealth TV tray, and I did notice one small little imperfection right there, and that looks very familiar to me. That looks to be, at least in my eyes, a piece that was probably hanging off the nozzle there that ended up getting stuck on there. But other than that, this looks really nice here. And we have this, which is the longest set, printing out at 22 hours and 22 minutes, but it's looking great. We're gonna continue printing out the rest of the pieces here. I'm gonna get these printers loaded up, and once they are loaded up, we're actually gonna start 3D modeling the Lazy Day tray. And by the way, it is 70.2 degrees Fahrenheit in the 3D printer room with a 60% humidity level. By the way, if you guys are interested, all this stuff is available on my Makeover for free download, so you can download it, print it, and have fun. And just to kind of run you through quickly about what all this stuff is, we have the Sith throne for your phone, Vader's throne for your phone, we have Bo-Katan's throne for your phone. That right there is a makeshift phone to kind of show you what it can do. It could also stand vertically. These are thickness tests. So as you're modeling, you can kind of take a look and see how thick, let's say, 1 millimeter is, and it'll help you with your modeling. We got green over there from Rainbow Friends, a Stealth French side table, as well as some fun little figures over here. All that's available on my Makeover for free download, linked in the description below. Alright guys, and you know yesterday we went over and did the Lazy Day tray design, and we're going to be 3D modeling this out today after I get the print started here and over here. Nice warm coffee. I love it. Alright guys, it looks like we have plenty of filament there as well as there, and I am gonna take off this here half. Oh wow, that came off real easy. And look at the bottom there, it's looking really nice. We do have a ghost image of the bottom of the latches, is what I usually print. And by the way, for those of you who are new to the channel, this is my tiny 3D print farm of 5 Bambu Lab A1 3D printers. And that one has an AMS light top mount. And down there is where I house the things that I usually print. And I usually print latches. This is a left latch, and it's printed in gray PETG. Right latch, left plate, and right plate. And these attach to a larger product that I don't talk about because this is a channel that focuses on 3D printing and the rest is not 3D printed. And the AMS light is used to finish off near empty spools of filament with its auto refill function. By the way, if you guys are interested in this filament that I'm using, it's available on my Etsy shop, and make sure to check out that 2-pack value bundle to save on shipping. Alright guys, so that came out real easy, and we already got a lid for it, so that's good to go. Here's that lid. That just pops in right there, looking great. Alright guys, let's see how this one does. Not bad at all. Wow, that looks great. And that bottom looks even better. I love it. Very nice. Alright guys, so it looks like this Stealth TV tray is humming along. Alright guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and take this one out as well. This is the most dense plate. The rest of them are pretty much just printing out leg halves. Wow, that is honestly looking so good. By the way, you can tell kind of where I used the dried out 4-month-old filament and then where it switched over to the brand new spool. There's like a lighter gray there. Still looks amazing. Center bar. Yeah, these are just coming off so nicely. Here are the dowels, looking great. Super cool. And right here we got those washers. Very neat. And this under the table center bar. And as far as I remember, these came off fairly easily. Yeah, there you have it. There's some sagging going on over here where the angle prints were. But again, that could probably be due to my settings. But nonetheless, it's a strong piece, holds up well. All right, let's get the next print started. We only got one spool on there. Good to go. All right, while that's starting up, we can do the next print here, which is the bottom center bar. Likewise, we could start the print here, which is another leg. Very cool. All right, guys, so we got the print started out on these 3 machines. The Stealth TV tray in gray is well on its way. And I didn't mean to rhyme. However, we are ready to start modeling out the new Lazy Day tray. I'll see you in the computer. All right, guys, so we are here in Maya, and I have this Stealth TV tray tabletop as a reference because I know that this is just about as much as we're going to be able to utilize with two Bambu Lab A1 3D printer print beds. I'm going to go ahead and grab the measurements from this. So I'm going to go into my top view. Let me make sure I am in millimeters first, and we are now in millimeters. I'm going to turn off grid. I'm going to create a cube, and this time around I don't really need to do measurements via the stack over here because I have this reference that I'm going to be vertex snapping to. I'm going to turn on wireframe mode, bring this up this way and that as well. I'm going to go over to this side and do the same, just like that. Grab this side, bring that on over and vertex snap it. There you go. Now I'll go over to the side view here and start scaling down. There you have it. And I actually want to bring this to the center. All right, and I'm going to grab these this way and bring it on up likewise this. Bring that down. That is looking good. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the Stealth TV tray, throw that in a layer, and this is about the size we're going to be working with for the Lazy Day tray. Alright guys, and I went ahead and I took pictures of the silicone trays, so I'm going to go ahead and bring those in and model those out. I just want to label this Stealth TV tray reference, throw this in a layer as well. I'm going to call this the Lazy Day tray. I'm going to go over to top view here, I'm going to select this view, image plane, import image, and I'm going to import the images I prepared for the silicone trays. Alright, so here are all three of those silicone trays. I just turned off the grid there. They look kind of equal in size, but they're not. I went ahead and I measured from one end to the other, and this measures at 92.5 millimeters, the medium one at 102.8 millimeters, and the large one at 114.5. And we're going to be able to get correct measurements using those there. Alright, I know we're in millimeters, so I'm going to go ahead and create this cube. I'm going to go over to scale, multiply it by 10, so it's real world scale. That's just how Maya works. And then, I'm assuming this is the depth. Yep. So the depth, I'm going to do 114.4. So that's 114.4 there. And now we're going to have to match the size there. We're a little too big, so let's try 8.6. How about 8? We're nearly there. Alright, so we're looking good at 7.9. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this in a reference layer. So now we can't touch it. So anything I kind of start modeling from here, it's going to be pretty spot on. I'm going to go over here and take a look at what we're looking at. 9.3 millimeters. Alright, so we're pretty accurate here. And now we just need to match those rounded edges. So I'm going to go ahead and select all the edges here, just like that. You know they're selected because it's orange. I'm going to go back to the top view, go into wireframe mode, and now I will bevel it. As you can see, we have these diagonal lines. We're just going to go over here to this pop-up window, and now we can adjust to what we needed. I'm going to start adding segments here. I usually like to start out with 4 because we have one in the middle and 2 flanking each side, so it gives me a center to work from. And that's already looking pretty good, actually. I'm going to slow down the rate in which I can adjust by clicking on that pie chart, and let's actually add 8. Let's take a look. Overall, that's looking pretty accurate. However, let me see if I can bring it in just a tad bit. Yeah, I'd say that's looking pretty good. Alright, and now that we have this one finished and ready to go, I'm just going to put this in its own layer and call it large. We're just going to do the same for these two, and since you already saw the process, I'm just going to do it off camera. Alright guys, so we have a good representation of the lips of those silicone trays. So this is the size of the outer part of the lips, but we also want to know what the extrusion is, and according to my measurements, it's about 6.45 millimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and include that in as well. Grab a cube, multiply that by 10, so it's real world scale, 6.45 millimeters, and I'm just going to bring that cube up this way. Vertex snap it, so then I could snap it to this line here. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that, bring that on up. I'm also going to duplicate that, bring that on up, and there you have it. Alright, and as you can see, we have our measuring cubes there. Alright guys, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this edge, go to contiguous edges, there you have it. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and bevel it, turn off chamfer, so that I can just adjust as necessary over here. Alright, and I'm just going to go ahead and move it by eye over here. Alright guys, that's looking pretty accurate to me, so we're going to stick with that there. And I don't need this line here, but I do want to go ahead and just extrude this a little bit, just like that. So I know that we have this lip we can work with to set it in. And I'm just going to do the same thing for these two off camera, and I'll see you when it's done. Alright guys, and so this is an accurate representation of those 3 silicone trays with the outer lip size as well as the thickness of those lips. And now we can go ahead and start applying these to the Lazy Day tray over here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab these and select Control G, which will put them in a group. And I'm just going to rotate them here. And I do want to make sure they're all centered. So I'm going to grab this here and do an edge ring split, which gives me a center line. And I just want to make sure that everything is centered up. And there you have it. Looks like they were just slightly off from each other. Nonetheless, we got that lined up and it's good to go. And as mentioned before, I do want to match this design aesthetic for the Lazy Day tray. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this, duplicate it. And as a matter of fact, for the rest of them, I'm just going to hide it for now in a layer. And I'm going to grab this, rotate it back down this way, and let's just make it bigger. And I'm just going to bring this out here, likewise with this one. And I'm going to go ahead and match the Lazy Day tray to this rounded edge. I went ahead and I beveled that. I'm going to add 32 segments here so it's nice and smooth. And I'm going to try to match it by bringing this in. That is looking good to me. I do want to just bring it out a little bit, just like that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And we got that nice rounded look to the Lazy Day tray. I'm going to hide that Lazy Day tray for a second. And we're going to come over here. I do like the thickness and the overall shape of this slot, so I am going to take this and use it as a reference. I'm just going to grab that and extract the faces. Now that I have those, I can hide the main stealth TV tray there and start working on making this correct by bringing this down and merging them as one. I don't need this diagonal line here. That was created because we triangulated this model. And let me actually grab this mesh combine. Now I'm just going to grab these two, bridge them, likewise with this, bridge it. And I have the makings of the slot. And it's the perfect size we need it too. So I'm going to bring back the Lazy Day tray and also the silicone trays. And what I'm going to do here is just rotate this around this way because we do want it to go from largest to small. And I'm going to bring this over here, kind of following what worked on the stealth TV tray. I'm going to see about the distance from when the slot starts to the edge of the table to get an idea of how much distance to have there. So I just got a cube and I'm roughly kind of just measuring this out. So we can say it's about this much of a distance for us to have a lip that will be nice and sturdy. And this might change, but for now, we're gonna go with this kind of base here, and I'm just gonna bring it over here to the edge to know where to start the silicone trays. And with that, I can bring this over just like that. And I think I'm gonna leave a gap for each one about the same length, okay? Likewise, we'll do the same for this one. Just like that. I do want to make sure we have a center line on this thing and the center of our trays are aligned with the center of the stealth TV tray, which that looks to be aligned. Very nice. And by the way, the center line that I created is right there, so it's a little hard to see from the top view, but that's what we're working with. And I do want to see where the center line jumps across this way, so our silicone trays are not right on the center. I'm going to turn on wireframe mode there, and using my multi-cut tool, I'm going to bring that over like that. Likewise, this one. And let's see from the top view. So we're looking like it's almost on the center there, and I don't want that to interfere at all. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab these and kind of bring it towards the center just like that. And I'll grab this here, center the pivot, and it's almost the same distance there. So we'll just bring that over this way. It's going to get tighter to the edge, but I think that should be fine. There you have it. It is a bit tight over there. I'm actually curious now to see what the size of that is. And we can easily do that by going to Create, Measuring Tools, Distance Tool. And I'm just going to click, Shift, click again. And we can just grab locator number 1 here, match it to that vertex, grab locator number 2 and match it to that vertex there. And that'll tell us roughly the size. And remember, we have to divide by 10 here because we multiply by 10. And that's about 9.64 millimeters. And that should be ample room to support the silicone trays. So I'm going to leave that as is. You can go ahead and delete that measuring tool. And now let's start working on these guys over here, this slot. However, again, I do want to match that aesthetic, so I duplicated the smallest one, rotating it 90 degrees, and I'm just going to go ahead and bring these out this way. And likewise, I'm going to bring this in. Ooh, that really shrinks that corner. So I think I'm just going to eyeball it here. It's kind of hard to match to that exactly. So with that in mind, just going to grab the edges, just like that, and let's do a bevel. I'm gonna do 16, and let's get it nice and rounded. You know what? I think that works great. Let's just do 0.95, just like that, because it's pretty rounded here, and we're matching that roundness. So I'm gonna grab this slot here, bring it on over, and kind of eyeball. I'm looking to have at least this much of a distance on both sides. That's looking good to me. I'm trying to also imagine that if I were to chamfer this edge, I would need a little bit more space on this side. And it looks like I've given it that little bit of extra space, so that should be fine. And that's just going to stay there as kind of a placeholder for right now. And next, I'm going to create the cup holder, and we're looking at a 96 millimeter diameter. I'm going to create a measuring cube, multiply that by 10 for real world scale, and I'm going to write 96 here. Let's go back to the top view, create a cylinder, and I'm just going to scale this cylinder up. By the way, I do want to find the center point for this, and to easily do that, I'm just going to grab the cube, grab a face and poke it, and with that, we found the center there. And I do want to increase this to say 100, maybe even 150, make it nice and smooth. And we're just going to match that just like that. All right, and as for the depth of it all, kind of the height rather, I'm going to go off and do maybe 102 or 100, and I know that this will probably fit most cups just fine and have it securely in there. So with that in mind, let's go over to the top view, come around this way. I'm gonna add that kind of depth that we were talking about, trying to match this here. You know what? Instead of bringing this all the way out to the edge, I'm gonna vertex snap this to the edge there and then snap it here so that we have the same distance going on, just like that. All right, with that in mind, let me grab these, put them in a layer, and duplicate special them over in Z, like that. And last but not least, I want to grab this here, duplicate it, rotate it on 90 degrees, and I'm just going to expand this because it's going to cut through anyway. And there you have it. I'm going to bring that on up, and let's grab the other slots here. I'm actually going to mesh combine these, vertex snapping to the top lip so that I can snap it just like that. And if we go over to the side view, we're going to see that there's just a little bit of space there, enough for there to be a solid bottom to this slot. And while I'm here, I noticed there's some space over here we can work with. But before I continue here, I do want to create a makeshift phone really quick. So I'm going to multiply that by 10 for real world scale, 159.9 by 76.7 by 8.25, and these are some of the bigger phones out there, and I just want to make sure that the largest phone can fit into this slot horizontally if needed. And this slot is just here to be able to hold your phone there. It's not really meant for you to be able to view it. I mean, I guess you can if you wanted to, but really it's just meant to have everything next to you, so you're not worried about, hey, where's this, where's that, so on and so forth. With that being said, this fits great. This is one of the larger phones out there, so I think we could just leave this like this. And what I'm going to do now is actually I'm going to go ahead and create just kind of like your basic remote control size for your television. So we got 152.4 by 38.1 by 12.7. So I want to create a little hole here to be able to house this remote. And as you can tell, it's almost as tall as the cup holders. So I think if I made a hole that's depth is about the size of this cup holder, I think that would hold it pretty well. And even if the remote was slightly longer, it'll be perfect in here. So with that being said, coming up top here, we have this remote, and maybe I could just make some sort of a little hole here. Let's see. That should work just fine. But again, I do want to match that aesthetic of that circular shape, but I don't want it to be a perfect circle either. I can also extend the length of this here, and maybe we could match the size of this hole. Let me bring this on over this way, and I feel like I can even bring this over this way a little bit. I'm trying to match to this over here. That should work out just fine. So we got our remote in there, or a place for our remote rather, and honestly that should work out great. I do want to match to the height of this, or depth rather, in this case. There you go. And let's just go ahead and eyeball out a bevel over here. Let's do 32. Maybe I can use this as a reference. Scale that down, bring that up. All right, that's looking good to me. And that's an extra little hole we added in there to be able to keep our remote controls. So that's good, or whatever else you'd like to put in there really. Maybe you have a chocolate bar that's still in its wrapper. I think that's okay to put in there. And let's go ahead and duplicate special that after I freeze its transformations and delete its history. All right guys, I'm really liking the way this is looking so far. I'm gonna go ahead now and start working on booleaning all the holes out here. All right, and there is one thing we still need to add here, and that's that handle opening. So I'm gonna go ahead and create that. I took some measurements earlier, and we're looking at about 27.5 millimeters, 27.5 millimeters, decent sized hole there. And let's just line it up with the center. That's looking good. Let's bring that on over there, and that should work out great. All right, so the only thing we need to do now is close this up, fill that hole, and reverse the normals. Likewise with these slots over here, we just gotta fill those holes and reverse the normals here. Then we could just raise it up just a tad bit for the Boolean function, just like that. Likewise, we can do a similar thing with this. Combine that, get 100 exactly. Then we just grab it, raise it up just a tad bit. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm wondering if I should just create holes and then 3D print out the cup holders separately and pop them in. That's something that I think I'll probably do. So with that in mind, I'm just gonna grab this, duplicate it, and store it for now. Let's label everything. Silicone trays. This is the remote holder. And yeah, I think we're good there. So indeed, I can just grab the top here and raise it up just a tad bit for the Boolean function. And let's go ahead and do the same with these. Mesh combine. I'm going to duplicate that, save it. This is the cup holders. All right, and we're going to bring it down this way, just like that. And likewise, we're going to want to grab those top faces and bring it up just a tad bit. And the way I do it is grab the vertices, since we have so many edges. Then we're going to do Control right mouse button, two faces. And then we can just raise it up just a tad bit for the Boolean function. And last but not least, we have these silicone trays. I'm going to bring it up, same thing here, bring it to its surface. However, I do want to extend the bottoms out all the way. And to make this easier, I'm just going to combine these, but you know what, let me duplicate it, empty out what's already in here, and add this extra set so that when I work with this, I'll have another one just like the remote holder and the cup holder. So let's combine these. Let me do a modify freeze transformations, edit, delete by type history. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab these bottoms, extrude them out just like that. These. So we can get rid of those, and we're just going to want to lift these up a little bit for the extrude function again, just like that. All right, this is all looking really good. So I do want to now combine everything and just do one Boolean function. Let's see how that works. So now that I got everything, I'm going to mesh combine. And there's one thing I do want to do now, so it's not so hard later on. I almost missed that. That is beveling the edges here. I'm not going to do the bottom just yet because I still have to extend out the bottom, and let's just do the top here and eyeball it. That about looks right. And the bottom, again, I'm leaving because this still needs to all come out. And as I'm working through over here, I may change up the way I handle all of this, so that's why I'm kind of waiting on doing the bottom. But let's go ahead now and let's modify freeze transformations, edit, delete by type history. Do the same for this. Modify freeze transformations, edit, delete by type history. And let's just go ahead and Boolean it. Mesh difference. That's looking good. That's actually looking really cool. All right, that's exactly what we're going for. And we can do the same for this here. We need to cut those out anyway. But I do want to first edit, delete by type history because we don't want Boolean functions messing with each other. I'm going to grab this cube along with this cube, mesh combine, modify freeze transformations, edit, delete by type history, and let's do the same difference function. Very nice. All right, that's looking good. I do want to see if I can make these edges here smooth. All right, that seems to have worked out. I like my smooth edges, just like that. Let me do the other side as well. All right, that's looking good. So we have the makings of our Lazy Day tray, and we have the cutouts for the remote control holes as well as the cup holder holes. I do want to actually bevel this out as well so it's smooth. It doesn't have like such a sharp CG edge. So I'm going to grab these two contiguous edges, likewise with this and this. You know what, I'll do this front one later. All right, I think 8's pretty reasonable. We can do 4 there. That's nice and smooth. And likewise, we don't want to have sharp edges here either. So I'm going to do that right now. Let's grab these, go to contiguous edges, bevel them. And what does 1 look like? 1 looks pretty good. How about 1.4? And let's do 4 here as well. Very cool. You can do the same for these. Bevel. That's too much. Let's do 0.2. That's good. 4 there. What about the bottom? I think we'll do the bottom as well. Bevel. Let's try 8. It's too much. How about 4? That's a little too much as well. How about 2.5? That's looking good. We'll do 4 there. And the reason why I want to do the bottoms here, because we're going to be taking out the silicone collapsible bins out of here pretty often. And I want that to be kind of soft. But for the cup holders, they're actually just going to have stationary kind of bins in there that are never going to come out. So they don't really need washing because they're not housing food like these silicone trays are. And let's do this one over here. Let's try 2.5. All right, that's looking good to me. And we're gonna have a few more things to do now, which is create the buckets that are gonna go in here, as well as extend out the bottom part here, create the center dividing part, and create the lids that sit in here. All right, guys, so off camera, I just fixed something here. I increased the size of the cutout for the cup holder because I realized we need to have a wall for the cup holder, you know, bucket that's going to be there. And I want to make sure that I had enough wall thickness to be able to support the cup. And I chose 5mm, which is plenty. And now we have this bigger cutout here. So with that in mind, I'm going to continue now. I'm going to go ahead and, as a matter of fact, I'll separate these and I'll work on creating the bucket. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the walls here, extrude them out, adjust the thickness here, okay? And with that in mind, I can go ahead and just now grab the faces here and delete them. I'm going to create a cube here at 5mm so I can create the bottom as well. Let's go into wireframe mode and I'm going to vertex snap to the top here. Just grab these, bring that down, and just go ahead and add multi-cut there and snap it to that 5mm so I know where the bucket for the cup will stop. All right, we're just going to extrude that down, as you can see there, and I just vertex snapped it down there to where that 5mm line is at, and we can just fill hole and poke face. Very nice. And we're still at 100mm deep here, so I know that that's where we want it to be at. And the depth of this is also going to influence the height of the Lazy Day tray, so we wanted to be careful about that. I did leave a little bit of tolerance here, wondering if it might be too much. I kind of want to have it tight in there. So for that reason, I think I'm going to tighten it up a little bit more because I don't want it playing around. Now, the next thing we're going to want to do is create the lip here. I'm going to extrude that up. And again, maybe I could make it about 5mm. So let me grab my 5mm measuring cube. 5mm might be overdoing it, but I'd rather it be sturdy than not, you know. All right, and with that, I can go ahead and extrude out here. I think that's looking good. And with that, I can actually just adjust this a little bit so that it's not so thick there and it has kind of a look going on. Nice look. All right, and with that, I can go ahead and do a bevel. Let's increase it to 8. I think that looks good. Of course, we do want to add that hole for this as well. Oh, and you know what? Let me add a bevel here as well. Certainly don't need this here. All right, that's looking good. So I have my cube here that I created the hole from last time. Let's just bring that out. Let's match it up as best as we can. All right, that is perfect. Okay, and I don't want to go all the way to the bottom. I do want to leave a little bit of kind of wiggle room. And I think I can leave about 8mm. That should be sufficient room to kind of cup it in. There you go. I feel like that's looking good. And with that, I feel like we are ready to Boolean. Let's do modify freeze transformations, edit, delete by type history, mesh, Boolean, difference. Very nice. Oh, and it looks like the normals are flipped. I'm just gonna unlock the normals here, and that fixed it. All right, just gonna bevel that. Let's see if I can get a nice curvature going on there. That's looking good. And just gonna duplicate this across. All right, this thing's starting to come together. But there are still several things we need to do. Now we need to make the buckets for these here. And since these are gonna be holding remote controls, we don't need it to be as thick as 5mm. I feel like we can get away with 3mm. All right, that's really coming together. It's looking good. All right, so next, I'd like to work on the lids over here. Now that I'm looking at it, guys, I don't think that this would ever be really used as a flat surface because there's so many other holes and things to be using. So I think these lids would just be unnecessary. So we'll just leave them open like that. And from here, we're going to want to create the legs for the Lazy Day tray as well as the center cut. Now I'm trying to think over here, what sort of legs would be best? Before I was just going to have it come straight down. And you know what, we might still be able to do that. Let me actually see what we're working with here in terms of measurements. We're looking at about 9mm there, which is pretty decent. I know that 5mm is pretty substantial, so we can try out, let's do 7mm as a wall thickness, and I feel like that would hold up pretty well. So let me grab a measuring cube and get 7mm here. Oh yeah, that should be plenty. And I'm gonna go ahead and delete everything we don't need. All right, it looks like we've got everything here. I'm gonna put these into their own layer. And now I'm gonna grab this 7mm cube and vertex snap it to the edge there. And let's see if I can do this in an automated way. So I'm gonna grab these edges here. All right, that's actually looking pretty good. And I'm going to bevel it, turn off chamfer, and I'm going to extend this out to meet that 7mm mark. And I can go ahead and just delete this because I don't need it. And that's going to be going all around like that. And we're going to want to do the same here. All right, and I think that's looking pretty accurate. We're ready to make the legs for this thing. I'm just going to select all these faces. I'm going to extrude them out all the way down past the cup holders just a little bit. I think that's plenty. And we're going to do the same for this here. We're just going to select this in the round just like that and extrude that out and match it. I do want to connect the bottom here. That'd be really nice. Just give it some reinforcement. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to grab this multi-cut tool and just slice it about there. And let's delete this. Then we can bridge them. Bridge. And bridge, just like that. All right, guys, that's looking really nice, and we're almost there. All we got to do now is create that cut so that we can print this out in 2 halves. And we're also going to use the dovetails that we had created for the Stealth TV tray because they came out perfect. All right, now we can do a mesh difference. That gave us exactly what we're looking for. That's awesome. Now we can do a union. All right. There you have it. That should work out great. All right, guys. So it looks like our new Lazy Day tray design is ready to go. All right, guys. So I'm going to get this sliced out in Bambu Studio, and I'll see you out in the real world. Guys, so these Stealth TV tray pieces are still printing out. I'm going to load up what I can on those two with the Lazy Day tray we just finished modeling up and slicing in Bambu Studio. And I did run into a small little issue when slicing, which was the tree supports were going out of bounds. And so I switched the tree supports to slim, and it cut wherever it was going out of bounds, which was perfect. It was exactly what I needed. So I'm going to get those loaded up on here, printed out. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, peace, love, and joy.